it's very. I have to give props to everybody, all the makeup team that work with him, because you don't see that tattoo at all. But getting back to your question, that wig was horrible, but the fact that it stayed on his head and it looked like it belonged on his head, I'll give him credit for that. But that wig was terrible. No doubt about it. So yeah,
fire the wig maker, but give a raise to the makeup people.
Give a raise to the makeup people for sure. So I would say two very highly recommended films that are not really, that you would not think that you would have to go see during a summer season like this. So yeah, great films. Check them out. Moving on. More news, more interesting stuff. We've come up and we've wrapped up the last 2 days of the San Diego Comic-Con International. Now, you followed the coverage as much as you could. I tried to follow it as much as I could. What were the last 2 days that we had covered, or the last day that we had covered? We covered the new Batman v Superman film, Dawn of Justice. We covered a little bit of Warcraft last week as well. If you haven't heard those, you can download them now on mywatch.com. But are there anything in the last couple of days that really interested you at all?
I'm amazed that there's a King Kong movie they're going to make, and it kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody knew this thing was coming. They've already talked about Joe Cornish, the director of Attack the Block, directing this film.
Saw that.
Yeah. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it, because the footage they showed at Comic-Con, it was a trailer. It was a preview trailer, just a quick reel of an idea to kind of set a mood and a tone.
Right.
But they haven't actually made any of this film yet, so we're getting excited about footage that basically doesn't exist.
Peter Jackson actually, I was reading an article today. Peter Jackson actually came out and said that he would really like to have Guillermo del Toro do Skull Island.
Huh.
Which is very interesting. It was a very interesting quote. I don't know. I didn't get to read the whole article because I was coming down here, but I saw that and I was like, wow, that's interesting. Peter Jackson would put in his 2 cents. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Joe Cornish's films. His film, like you said, of note has been Attack the Block. He is a UK director. So if you haven't seen it, I'm not a fan. You are a big fan.
I was.
I'm not a very big fan of that film. We won't get into it, but Skull Island really piqued your interest.
It does, yeah. I love these films that come out of nowhere. As you know, in the internet age, it's hard to keep these films a secret. It's amazing when somebody can kind of slip underneath and boom. I remember when Super 8 came out. You know, when the first teaser trailer came out, this movie somehow kind of snuck past the watchful eyes of Ain't It Cool News and all the other websites. And all of a sudden, it's like we had to deal with the fact that this movie existed, and we were all catching up with it, as opposed to following its every move the way we are right now with Star Wars, for example.
Right, and J.J. Abrams, speaking of that, has been very vocal in teasing certain things, attaching it to certain charities and things like that, and making it very accessible, which I think is cool. And I mean, in some respects, even Batman v Superman is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, this is a movie that's not coming out until I believe 2016, or is it?
2016. You're right.
Yeah, it's not coming out till 2016, and we're getting pictures of what Ben Affleck looks like. We're getting pictures of the suit, and he's really ramping this up. So, and we got Wonder Woman, for crying out loud. We got a picture of her too. So he is really ramping this up. So I think what the studios are doing is smart. Why keep it under wraps? Why keep everything under wraps? Why not just release certain things and have people salivate over that, and then they won't be looking as much at your movie, or looking forward, or trying to sneak a peek at what else is available or what gets leaked. So, I think that works in their favor when you make people anticipate like that, and you give them a little bit to chew on, and they're excited about that.
It does, and Warner Brothers has a history of being really good about this. I remember, with Inception,
right?
The initial teaser trailer, we looked at it, we said, "What the heck is that?" But it
right.
looks really intriguing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and I say this to remind myself also, and also to all the geeks that love following movies and kind of clamoring to every little detail that leaks. I remember Ellen Page saying about that movie, about Inception. She said, this was about a year before the film was released, she said, you know what, do yourself a favor and don't read anything about it. Just watch the teaser trailer and let that be enough, and let the anticipation build, because you don't want to know anything about it. You don't want the rabbit to be out of the hat. You don't want to know how the magician does his tricks before you actually see the magic show. And I've always liked that, and because that's something that Steven Spielberg gave us when we were kids. We didn't see the dinosaurs. We didn't see the shark. We didn't even see Captain Hook with the initial teaser trailers of his films, and I really liked that.
Well, if we're honest about not seeing the shark, Steven Spielberg wanted to show more of it, but he couldn't because it kept breaking.
That's true.
So, if we're honest, Bruce from Jaws kept breaking, and we couldn't see as much as he would have liked to have shown us. Yes. Which, fortunately for Steven Spielberg, worked in his favor quite admirably.
Brilliantly, yes.
Absolutely. So, Skull Island, getting back to Skull Island, something you're very interested in looking at, something very, very interested in, or you're very interested in seeing more about it. That is a film that is going to be the prequel to King Kong. So we essentially, according to most articles that we've read and the information coming out of Comic-Con, is that it will be a prequel to King Kong, and we may be dealing with what happens on the island before they come, which is a very cool concept. Never thought about that before, but that is a very interesting concept. I hope that it works. I hope that it works out for the mythos of King Kong, because it sounds like a cool idea for sure.
Likewise, yeah. It's like when we were kids, we heard how Ridley Scott wanted to make a Planet of the Aliens movies where there was no dialogue; it was just aliens just hissing at each other. Right. And it's like it's a crazy idea, but this almost sounds like that. It sounds like it really wouldn't be a narrative-heavy movie, but kind of a film about mood and attention and establishing creatures and effects. I mean, it's a fun idea.
Hey, we're kind of getting that with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and the Planet of the Apes prequels, aren't we?
You're right.
Kind of, sort of.
Do you think we're going to get any subtitles though when Kong,
I'm sure we will. I bet you we will. I'm sure we will. All right, moving on to more Comic-Con news. There was a couple of panels that we wanted to find we found interesting. First off, they did the Avengers panel for Avengers 2: Age of Ultron. A couple of things were revealed. Thanos will not be in the film. He is the heavy at the end of the Avengers 2, or the original Avengers movie. He's at the very, very end, and you see his face. Yeah. Well, they say that he won't be a part of Avengers 2: Age of Ultron per se, but they did trot out the one and only Mr. Brolin, Mr. Josh Brolin. Yep. And not only did he come out, he came out with the fist, with the Infinity Gauntlet, well, with the glove.
He knows his audience.
Yeah. So yeah. So that was a lot of fun, interesting. Everybody was on that panel. Robert Downey Jr. was on that panel. Chris Evans was on that panel. And they released, for those at Comic-Con, I guess you could say a sizzle reel almost. Yeah. Some fun footage of what was there. So I'm very excited. Was there anything else that you heard or read about the new Avengers or the new Avengers 2 in the panel?
Apparently everything looked like it worked, and I know there's been some concern that the dynamic of the Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen characters, kind of how that would work within the confines of the film, and apparently the footage really kind of established that Joss Whedon once again has a real handle on the tone of this thing, which, as you know, with comic book movies, tone is everything, and apparently there's a bit of a the footage apparently began very tongue-in-cheek, and it kind of became more grave as it went along. And that really kind of sums up kind of the body of work of Joss Whedon. There's always been a lot of edgy comedy in his material. Right.
And I think that we're very, as a community, a nerd community, we're very interested to see Joss Whedon's take on Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, who we know, even though they can't see it in the films, are related to the X-Men. So at the end of, I'm not giving anything away because you guys have probably all seen it, most nerds have, the Captain America Winter Soldier, we get to see that. We get to see the first inklings of the two. I can't even call them mutants. What's the word? I forget what it was because they can't use the word mutants in the movie.
Right.
Remember, because because it's copyrighted from Fox.
Yeah.
So you can't use the word mutant. I forget what they're special or something. Whatever it is, we get our first glimpses of Elizabeth Olsen and, of course, Aaron Taylor Johnson in the end of Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So that was very cool, and I'm really interested to see where that's going to go. So that Avengers panel got me a little excited from what I had read about it. I'm very, very interested to see more notes on what exactly Ultron is going to be. They showed I believe they've been releasing some pictures of what he'll look like, Ultron, and they've already said that Ultron is not going to be built by Hank Pym, who is the Ant-Man. He's going to be built by Tony Stark. So they've kind of changed up the comic book, which is completely fine because you're establishing a different universe, and that's, for me, some nerds get upset about that. Me, I'm not as big on that. It's okay to have a different universe. You can have a comic book universe, you can have a movie universe. You're just moving, as long as you keep the spirit of who these characters are. I don't mind changing up the story at all.
I agree. Storytelling tweak. It's not messing with the integrity
right.
of these characters. It's
right.
it's the Joker killing Bruce Wayne's father. It's not midi-chlorians.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that sometimes a lot of people are very attached to what they read as in high school and,
sure.
and when they're kids. They get very attached to it. They get very they feel a connection to it. So when they change it, it becomes a very personal thing. When you get the older you get, the more you realize that there are some things in comics that don't work on the big screen. So you have to tweak it a little bit, and you have to be able to accept that that there's a comic book universe which we can love and hold dear, because comic books had a big impact on my young adult life for sure. And then what we see in the movie universes and what works on that level as well. So that was I'm very interested to see more about the Avengers 2, and I'm very interested to see how they're working around Scarlett Johansson being pregnant. So I wonder if we're going to see a lot less of the Black Widow this time.
Or if they're just going to CGI that belly away.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe they're going to CGI that belly away, and everything's going to be stunt shots of her doing her thing as the Black Widow. So I'm quite interested. So anyway, moving on. Another panel. What did I tell you?
Well, there's a bunch, and we should probably mention this too. The Marvel panel also had an Ant-Man bit.
Oh, that's right, the
which
Ant-Man
is interesting
bit,
because
yes.
some who were at the fest actually said this came across kind of like damage control because, of course, the controversial decision to fire Edgar Wright being replaced by Peyton Reed, the director of Down with Love.
I heard Edgar Wright walked away.
I've heard different things.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
So we don't know. Yeah. We're unclear as to whether Edgar Wright was fired or walked away, but whatever it was creative differences.
Yes.
Okay. So now they brought on Peyton Reed, who, of course, is responsible for... What was the movie?
Down with Love.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Down with Love. That's the one with Ewan McGregor, right?
It is. It is.
I shudder to think.
Jerry Ryan is in the film for about 10 minutes, but otherwise... Yeah.
Okay.
It's an agonizing film to sit through.
A couple other actors had also. One had a scheduling issue, and that was Luke Wilson. Of course, we know Luke Wilson, who has been working with James Wan in the Insidious movies.
Yeah.
And the other actor, I cannot remember his name. He was going to play a pivotal character, and I can't remember his name at this point. But there were two, Luke Wilson and the other actor who were in Ant-Man had to walk away from the project because of scheduling issues. So now it seems like you said it is damage control for Ant-Man. We're really looking forward to it. We saw the poster with Michael Douglas and Paul Rudd. We even seen the suit and him on a flying ant, which is quite interesting. So, what is your take on what's happening with Ant-Man? What can they do? Because people are still excited. I don't know if people are worried per se, but what is the damage control that they're doing?
The possibilities are there, but inevitably, when you talk about Edgar Wright, who, if nothing else, has always had a really nice touch with comedy. He's one of the best comedy directors working right now. Peyton Reed, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say... I remember he also directed the remake of Fun with Dick and Jane. I don't consider him to be a especially surefire hand with comedy the way Edgar Wright has been, I think, consistently. So I worry that this really inevitably fun concept, it sounds like a movie that can't miss, but it really can if they don't really nail it down. I do worry about it. I think the worst thing that could happen here is that it's kind of like the Tim Story Fantastic Four movies. It's fun, kids like it, but it doesn't really have any bite, doesn't have any snap, it doesn't have any personality.
Well, I think one of the issues that have been brought up about Edgar Wright walking away is the fact that Marvel very much has a very tight hold. They want a very tight hold on what's happening in the Marvel universe. So even though they are directing, even though Edgar Wright would be directing, Marvel very much wants the reins of the Ant-Man movie, and you can see that through all of the films from Iron Man to Captain America. They're trying to create a you could call it a river that keeps flowing downhill. So they don't want a dam. They want Ant-Man to fit in, and maybe Edgar Wright's ideas weren't exactly what Marvel wanted, and they thought that it would be better if they went with somebody else like Peyton Reed, who would be more than willing to listen to what Marvel had to say.
Someone they can control, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with that too. So hopefully this doesn't spell doom. No pun intended, for the Ant-Man, because I think it's still going to be a fun little flick. But secondly, moving on to another Marvel character, one of my favorites when I was growing up was Doctor Strange. We got some interesting news that they're